everyone, this is User1, and today I'd like to talk about doing, well, anything. This is something that separates just a scripted game, a third-person shooter like vanilla Grand Theft Auto, from, well, roleplay. While modern free roam games offer you some level of choices in terms of where you could go, what you can do, there's always a limit on what actions can your character do specifically. Have you ever had this moment where you're blocked by some sort of a barrier that, if this was real life, you could overcome easily? However, because of game design, you aren't able to overcome and there's nothing you can do about it. For example, this broken wooden door in Fallout that requires mastering lock-picking skill to open it. Why would you pick a lock instead of just reaching through the opening and unlocking the door from the inside? Unfortunately, situations like those are very common and they end up ruining your immersion, since the only thing limiting you from using your very realistic solution to a very simple problem is the fact that the programmers who created your game did not foresee you making such a decision and thus never coded it in. Ironically, the most common games where you can run into the situation is role-playing games. For example, if you have ever played a text-adventure title, you'll know the frustration of trying to use every item with every object in the room until some absurd single solution that the programmer came up with works. However, other more logical solutions will not work because the programmer haven't thought of them. This is where RP servers come in. Custom multiplayer game modes make it possible, in theory, to perform any action imaginable. How? With a simple command /me. The idea is simple. You open your chat box like you normally would to chat with your friends, and you type /me followed by your action in third person. For example, /me looks over at John, nodding his head. As far as I can tell, any role-playing game out there will always convert this input into your name followed by looks over at John, nodding his head. So if your role-playing name is Bob Smith, then it would be Bob Smith looks over at John, nodding his head. It's important to note that different servers have different standards and rules on how you're supposed to use commands. Some servers have other similar commands like /do or /it to describe the surroundings, and you should get acquainted with the rules of any server you're joining. But why would you use /me? Well, because maybe you're trying to perform an action that isn't scripted in the game. For example, maybe you're trying to roleplay emotion, however there's no way for you to demonstrate that other than by typing it out. If we use the example I've mentioned before with the door, you could in theory do /me reaches through the opening in the door, unlocking it from the inside. And then you'd be able to enter through the door on a roleplay server. Obviously, if the script is limiting you, you won't be able to do much. However, this is where a game master comes in. A game master is a term that derives from 1971, if we're talking in context of role-playing. Someone who's a game master is, in general, someone who organizes, manages a game between different people and clarifies on the rules every now and then. These game masters are, unfortunately, a necessity for a roleplay server to work if the roleplay server limits its players with script. Basically speaking, if you ask a game master to unlock a door for you, because you could realistically unlock it since it was broken anyway, in theory, they should unlock it. I'm saying in theory because every server to their own whim, and many servers make different decisions on where they draw a line, and personally that just disappoints me. However, that's another topic. For now, let's assume that administrators really did let you do anything you wanted with /me. How do you properly use it? It seems like a no-brainer to most of the people watching it, since you have been using it for years. But have you been using it correctly? Now don't get me wrong, the worst you can ever do on a roleplay server is dictate someone else how they should roleplay their own character. That being said, is there a specific format on how you should use /me? Let's use LSRP as a baseline, as it's one of the biggest true roleplay servers out there right now. Number rule 2 states, your /me's and /do's should not state what others cannot see, hear, touch, smell or taste. Yet we constantly see examples of people breaking this rule over and over and over. Why is this so important? Surely extra information won't hurt no one, except when it will. You see, when you provide a description of something that characters around you could not possibly have noted, it might still impact their decisions. Here's an example. Imagine you're a licensed weapon holder and there's someone attacking you with a deadly weapon. Thankfully, you have a bind setup that types /me draws a firearm from their waistline. Now, a police officer might see you pulling a gun and not see the deadly threat, and decide to open fire on you immediately because he took you as an active threat when all you wanted to do was defend yourself. This could easily happen, and unfortunately, in the case of LSRP for example, when you get killed by police, you get your license revoked out of character regardless of your intentions. Thankfully, I could recover my weapon license every time this has happened to me, but that's a story for another time. Now imagine you instead type /me draws a licensed firearm from their waistline. Can an officer tell that it's a licensed firearm at the moment? No. If it had a big sign on it maybe. However, this /me might influence officer's decision to shoot you, and he might decide to not shoot you immediately, based on information that he could have not known at the time in character. While this works in your favor, you're abusing a system to gain advantage over other players. You're giving away more information than an officer would have at the moment, and thus you're metagaming. I hope that by watching this video, you have learned a thing or two about the proper use of /me. Be the one to set a good example out there and other people will follow you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good day and stay awesome.